The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway at 6:14 a.m. That was the first thing that felt wrong. My husband always left the porch light on when I worked night shifts. Every single night for 3 years, that soft yellow glow waited for me. I used to joke that he was like a lighthouse keeper guiding me home. He'd laugh, already pouring coffee. The pot started the second I texted him from the hospital parking lot. But that morning, the light was off. I sat in the car for a second, too exhausted to think straight, telling myself the bulb had probably burned out. I grabbed my bag, my feet aching from 12 hours on the pediatric floor, and walked to the door. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The living room looked like a party had exploded. Pizza boxes stacked on the table. Plastic cups scattered across the floor, not ours. A blanket I didn't recognize thrown over the couch. And by the door, his. Not mine. Not his. Women's shoes. Think. Size 7. My sister's size. Marcus. My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. No answer. I walked down the hallway, instinct taking over. Noah first. Always Noah. He was 5. Slept with his stuffed elephant. Captain. Kicked his blanket off every night. I always tucked him back in when I got home. Just stood there for a moment, listening to him breathe. I opened his door. His bed was empty. I'm a nurse. I've stood in emergency rooms with parents who were breaking apart. I know how to stay calm. How to breathe through panic. So I didn't scream. I turned and walked, fast, to the kitchen. He was on the floor. Curled up under the table. Using his little jacket as a pillow. Captain tucked under his arm. Still in yesterday's clothes. The red dinosaur shirt, gray sweatpants. The heat wasn't on. The floor was cold. He was cold. My hands shook as I picked him up. He stirred, eyes half opening. "Mommy," he whispered. That small, sleepy voice. I held him tight, my chest aching, and looked up. And saw the light on. At the end of the hall. In the guest room. I carried Noah back to his bed. Tucked him in. Pulled the blanket up around him. Set Captain beside him. Kissed his forehead. "I'm home," I whispered. "Everything's okay." I said it like a promise. Even though I didn't know how I was going to keep it yet. Then I walked down the hallway. To the guest room. I opened the door. My husband was in the bed. My sister. Was lying beside him. I wish I could tell you I screamed. That I threw something. Said something sharp and unforgettable. Something that matched the weight of what I was seeing. But I didn't. I just stood there. In that doorway. For a long, silent moment. I watched them. My husband. Marcus. The man I met 7 years ago at a friend's birthday party. The one who cried at our wedding. The one who held my hand in the delivery room and told me I was the strongest person he'd ever known. And my sister. Diane. 3 years younger. Always struggling. Always needing help. The one I defended when others didn't. The one I made excuses for. The one I tried, over and over, to protect. They were asleep. Still in the same clothes they'd gone to bed in. I noticed everything. Not emotionally. Clinically. Like I do at work. The wine bottle on the nightstand. 2 glasses. The way Diane's head rested on the pillow that used to be mine on the nights Marcus and I slept in that room. I took it all in. Then I closed the door. Quietly. I went into the bathroom. Sat on the edge of the tub. And called my attorney. Her name was Patricia Hendricks. I hired her 8 months earlier. Back when I first noticed money disappearing from our joint account. Small amounts at first. $40. $100. Marcus always had an explanation. And I always believed him. Because I was exhausted. Because I was working 60 hours a week. Because I loved him. And because I didn't want to believe what part of me already knew. She picked up on the second ring. I had warned her this call might come. "I found them," I said. "In my house." My son was sleeping on the kitchen floor. There was a pause. Then her voice, steady, focused. "Don't wake them. Don't confront them. Not yet. Can you take Noah and leave for a few hours?" "Yes. Go to the hotel we discussed. Use your business card, not the joint account. I'll have paperwork ready by 9. She paused. "And I need you to do one more thing before you go." I followed every instruction. I grabbed my phone charger. Packed a small bag for Noah. Clothes, his toothbrush, Captain the Elephant, his favorite book. I moved the way I do during emergencies. Fast. Precise. No wasted motion. No panic. Then I went back to the guest room. Stood in the doorway again. And this time, I documented it. Photos. Clear. Time stamped. 6:31 a.m. Both of them. In my house. In my guest room. The wine glasses. The bottle. And in the corner, those shoes. Diane's. The same ones she wore to my son's birthday party 2 months ago. I had told her they were cute. I had smiled. Cut her cake. Driven her home when she had too much to drink. All while this was already happening. I didn't wake them. I didn't say a word. I carried Noah to the car. He barely stirred. Fell asleep again with his head against the window. I drove to the Marriott on Clement Avenue. Checked in under my business name. Exactly the way Patricia and I had planned months earlier. Back when I still hoped I'd never need to follow through. Noah slept. I sat on the edge of the bed. Staring at the blackout curtains. Phone in my hand. That's when Patricia told me the rest. The part one didn't know yet. It wasn't just small withdrawals anymore. Over 14 months. Marcus had moved $63,000. Out of our joint accounts. Out of our son's education fund. $63,000. Gone. He didn't take the money all at once. He did it slowly. Carefully. Small amounts. Just under the threshold that would trigger alerts. It was deliberate. When Patricia's forensic accountant traced it, the picture became clear. Some of the money had gone to a credit card in Marcus's name. One I didn't even know existed. Some of it had been pulled out in cash. Harder to track. Harder to explain. And then there was the part that didn't need explanation. $17,000. Used as a down payment. On an apartment lease. The apartment was in Diane's name. I sat there for a long time after hearing that. Just sitting with it. I had spent my whole life taking care of Diane. Our mother hadn't been well. Not in ways I understood as a child, but in ways I understood all too clearly as an adult. So I became the one who stepped in. I made sure Diane ate breakfast. Got to school. Had someone to call when things went wrong. When I became a nurse and started earning real money, nothing changed. I helped when she was between jobs. Paid her phone bill when she said she couldn't make rent. Gave her the deposit for her last apartment, because she asked me with that look. The one that made me feel like I was still 9 years old and responsible for everything. And now I knew. $17,000 of my son's education fund. Had paid for the place she was living in. Noah woke up around 8 o'clock. Looked at me and asked, "Where's Daddy?" I smiled. Kept my voice steady. "Daddy's at home. We're on a special adventure. Just you and me." We ordered pancakes. He thought room service was the greatest thing in the world. He bounced on the bed. Drowned his pancakes in syrup. Showed me, 3 separate times, how Captain the Elephant could balance on a pillow. I watched him. Smiled when he looked at me. And inside, something went very still. Very clear. Patricia filed the divorce papers at 9:07 a.m. At 9:45 Marcus called. I didn't answer. At 9:52, Diane called. I didn't answer. At 10:30 I called my mother. She wasn't easy to talk to. But she needed to hear it from me. I told her everything. What I saw. What I found. The money. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Diane told me things haven't been good between you and Marcus. She said you were growing apart." I asked her how long she had known they were spending time together. Another silence. Longer this time. "I didn't think it was my place," she said. "I thought maybe it was nothing." I ended the call. Made a note in my phone. Date. Time. What was said. I didn't speak to her again for weeks. Marcus called 11 times that day. I answered on the 12th. 2 days later. By then I had met with Patricia again. Understood the full financial situation. Spoken to a therapist at the hospital. Someone who deals with family crises. He told me something simple but important. What I was feeling wasn't weakness. It was appropriate. So when Marcus called again, I answered. He said he was sorry. Said it was a mistake. Said Diane had come to him months ago crying with nowhere to go. Said he tried to help. That things got complicated. He said he hadn't been happy. That I was always working. Always tired. Focused on the job. On Noah. That there was nothing left for him. He said he needed me to understand. I listened. Didn't interrupt. Let him say everything he needed to say. And when he was done I said one thing. I found our son sleeping on the kitchen floor. He was cold. You were in the next room. He tried to explain. Said Noah must have gotten out of bed. That he'd only been asleep a short time. That it wasn't what it looked like. I said, my attorney will be in touch. And I hung up. I wish I could say Diane stayed away after that. But she didn't. She found me. I had checked into the hotel under my business name. But she knew it. I had let her use that business credit card before. Years ago. When I trusted her. She had always been clever. I used to admire that about her. I thought one day it would take her somewhere better. She knocked on my door on the third day. Patricia had been clear. Do not engage. Her exact words. Let the legal process work. Any conversation now could complicate everything. I knew that. I agreed with it. I opened the door anyway. Not because I was weak. But as I was prepared. Before I touched the handle, I turned on the voice recorder on my phone. Left it running in my pocket. Diane stood there. Cloaked, broken. Eyes swollen. Hair unwashed. Wearing a coat I recognized. One I had given her for Christmas. For a second she looked like my little sister again. The one I had spent my whole life trying to protect. He said she was sorry. Said it just happened. That things like this just happen. She said she never meant for it to go this far. Then she said something that settled everything inside me. Marcus told me you didn't love him anymore, she said. He said you were basically separated. He said it was okay. I asked her about the $17,000. She froze. So I asked again. Calm, specific. The down payment on the Birchwood apartment. The lease. The move-in date. Your name on it. He swallowed. Said Marcus told her it was his money. Savings. I looked at her. That was Noah's college fund, Diane. She started crying harder. Said she didn't know. Said if she had known she never would have taken it. She said a lot of things in that doorway. And my phone recorded every word. But what stayed with me wasn't what she said. It was what she didn't. She never once asked about Noah. Not once. She cried about herself. About Marcus. About how hard her life had been. About how she never meant to hurt me. But she never said his name. That's when something inside me shifted. Pling. Final. I understood then. Diane and I never had the relationship I thought we did. I had been the giver. The responsible one. The one who showed up. He had been the one who took. And I let her. Because I loved her. Because I confused love with endless giving. I thanked her for coming. Told her I hoped she'd be okay. And I closed the door. That night I sent the recording to Patricia. The divorce didn't happen quickly. I want to be honest about that. Because real life isn't neat. Took 7 months. 7 long months from filing to finalization. There was no drama. No big moments. Just a slow, grinding process. Paperwork. Statements. Custody discussions that hurt in ways I didn't expect. Marcus hired a lawyer. He pushed back on the financial findings. Tried to explain the missing money. He couldn't. The transfers didn't make sense. The withdrawals from Noah's education fund didn't make sense. His attorney tried to frame it as household expenses. Family costs. Patricia dismantled that argument piece by piece. Calmly. Completely. The forensic report held. The timeline held. Even the recording helped, confirming details, anchoring everything in place. I kept the house. I was granted full primary custody of Noah. Marcus got supervised visitation every other weekend. And the money? Not all at once. But it became a legal obligation. Structured payments. Enforced. The education fund would be restored. He didn't go to prison. Family court doesn't always work that way. What he received instead was accountability. A judgment. Restrictions. A financial weight that would follow him for years. Whether that's justice. I'll let others decide. Diane lost the apartment. She couldn't afford it without him. And he couldn't afford it once the court stepped in. She moved back in with our mother. He called me twice after that. Left voicemails. Apologies. The kind that sound more like regret for consequences than for actions. I didn't call back. My mother called more often. That was harder. More history. More complicated. Eventually, I agreed to meet her for coffee. Then again. We aren't close. Not the way I once hoped. But we are honest now. And I've learned that sometimes, honest is enough. Noah turned 6 in the spring. He started seeing a child therapist. A kind, quiet woman who helped him process things in ways I couldn't always reach. I watched him slowly settle. Stop waking up in the night. Start feeling safe again. Children are resilient. When you give them truth. When you give them consistency. When you give them love without confusion. I told him his dad and I both loved him. But we wouldn't live together anymore. I told him it wasn't his fault. Not even a little. I said it 100 different ways. Until I knew it reached him. One morning about 4 months after everything was finalized, I came home from a day shift. I had switched to days. Finally. Noah was in the backyard. Sitting on the patio with a bucket of chalk. Drawing birds across the stones. Big ones. Bright. Messy. I sat down beside him, still in my scrubs. He handed me a piece of chalk. "This one's yours, Mommy," he said. "Make it fly." So I did. I drew a bird stretching across 3 stones. Wings wide. Going somewhere. He looked at it carefully. Then nodded. "It's good." I think about that moment a lot. How small it was. How big it felt. Because rebuilding doesn't mean going back. You don't get that. You build something new. Something that fits the life you're actually living now. I'm not grateful for what happened. Pain isn't a gift. Betrayal isn't a lesson. But I do know this. I know who I am now. I know what I do when my son is cold on a kitchen floor. I know what I will never accept again. I know the difference between loving someone and disappearing inside them. I still work at the hospital. I still check on my patients at the start of every shift. I still come home. Tuck Noah in. Stand in the doorway for a moment. Listening to him breathe. And the porch light? It's always on now. I leave it on myself.